Hi. Well, today I'm going to be talking about how to explore your Swedish heritage using ArkivDigital. I'm going to be giving a little introduction, and then we're going to talk a little bit about archive search. I'm going to emphasize index search, which is really the new way of searching with name searching. Also, I want to point out a series of books that we have scanned recently called for the Swedish Estate and Farms, and then give you an update of the Swedish American Church, and also point out a new booklet that we've added to the Swedish American Church collection. Now, ArkivDigital is an online subscription service that provides access to the Swedish historical records. Today, we have nearly over 87 million newly photographed colored images, or about 174 million pages of Swedish historical records. Now, to start the program, you can click on Start the Program, or you can go directly into the app, app.arkivdigital.se, and then you can enter your email address, which is your username, and a password, and then log in. Once you log in, you're going to see something that says Open New Archive Search tab. Also Open New Index Search tab. And up here at the top, you're going to see something that says History, Links, English. You can change it into English or Swedish, Help, or ArkivDigital. Under History, this is where you can see your saved recent historical searches. So let's say that you've actually closed some records, but you want to reopen one. You can go to History and then review it. And let's say it's this particular record here that's on page 179. You just click on it, and that will reopen that image. On the links, you can find out what the latest volumes that have been added to ArkivDigital. Also, you can check our product catalog. Under Help, you will find a program user guide, as well as a user guide for the family tree that we've just added to ArkivDigital. And then a very nice tool that's been added recently is a spelling of names. This is a PDF file which you can download, and it's 42 pages. And it's organized first by names of males, and then secondly, the names of females. And it gives a little bit of historical background of these particular names. So for instance, Anders, it says it's the Swedish form of Andreas, and it's very common within the entire Sweden. Also, Andor is Nordics, and it's more common in West Sweden. So again, this is a very nice tool to use, especially when you're looking at some of the older records, and maybe it's a name that doesn't sound so familiar. You may want to come here and check it out. On the left-hand side, you're going to see tabs for archive search, and that's a traditional way for searching Swedish church books or other types of archives. We also have index search, and that's the name searching, which we're going to look at a little bit more. We also have map search, the family tree, and then if you have bookmarks, this is where you would open your bookmark file. But first, let's look at archive search. Now, this is a traditional way of searching, and if you've been researching for many years, this is the way you have been searching. You need to know, go to archive search, and then you search archive documents. If you happen to know the name of the archive, such as the name of the parish, or maybe the name of the court archive, you can enter it in the box under archive holder and then just do a search. You can also search by archive type. And within ArkivDigital, we have more than 100 archive types. But at the top of the list are the 4 most popular ones. The first one, parish congregation, or the church books. District court, for the court records or estate inventories at the district level. District registrar, which is for the tax registers at the district level. And then also the military archives. Then after that, all the other archives are listed in alphabetical order. Now, some have not been translated into English. To go in here, you would actually select archive type. scroll on the arrow. Then if you select parish congregation, and the default country is Sweden, you will see you will get over 2,800 archives. You can also search by county and also by province. If you search by the country United States, then you can also limit the search by state. Most of the records in the US are Swedish American church books. So here's an example for Nebraska, where there are 120 archives or 120 congregations. Okay, one tool that you may not be aware of is the filter tool. And in this example, I've actually was looking for St. Peter's in Malmo. I did an archive search, and the exact name was Malmo St. Petri. I did a search, and then I got the archive for this particular congregation. I clicked on it to open the archive, and I see the volume list. There are 557 volumes. That's quite a few volumes to actually sort of go through. Let's say I just want to look for a birth record for 1840, or maybe a marriage record for 1860. So what you can do to narrow down the search is you can use a filter feature, which is right here, filter on type of source. And you click on that, and then it will show you all the different types of sources that are in this particular archive. And you see marriage records, attachments to parish records, banns and marriage records. If you were to scroll further down, you would see more. You can also filter it by years, year from, or year to. So in this case, I wanted just the congregation records from 1896 to 1898. I did that, and now I only have 12 records, 12 volumes. And then within Malmo, the congregation records, these are huge parishes. They're actually divided by sections within the city. And one of the sections is Hamburg. So what I can do is I can actually further refine my search, put Hamburg up here, and now I have the exact volume that includes that particular section. So it's A2A:7, 1896 to 1900. Another thing, if you go into the archive info, and this is a section that actually gives you more information about that particular archive. So here, but for the parish congregations, we've added something show on map. And you click on that, and then that will give you a map showing you the location of that particular congregation, as well as the nearby parishes. So over here is St. Peter's, and you can sort of see the nearby parishes. Down here, St. Paul. Here's the Jewish synagogue, and down here's the Catholic parish. Okay, I've been asked, how do you source the records within ArkivDigital? And to do that, you go up to the toolbar and you find copy. And when you open that, when you click on it, it's going to open a menu. And at the top, there's going to be something copy source identifier and copy pure source identifier. If you use the one copy pure source identifier, you just click on that, and then that's going to save it in your clipboard. And then what you can do is then you can immediately paste it in a family history program or your ancestry tree or some other type of document. And what's going to show is actually, it's going to show, in this case, this is actually the parish, Ramsella, and then this is the county code, Y, which is actually the county code for Västernorrland. And then here we have the volume, C:2, 1750 to 1860. And then after that will be image 95, page 181. If I had selected copy source identifier, I would have gotten the same information, but I also get the AID, or the ArkivDigital identification number, which starts with a V and goes down to V122120B95S181. And this is just unique to ArkivDigital. And where this can help is if you're working with someone else who has an ArkivDigital subscription, you may want to give them that particular number. Then they can go up here and they can just paste it in there, and then they can open the record also. And there's also a link to the National Archive database reference. It's not a link, it's a reference number, I'm sorry. You can also save an image to your computer as a JPEG, and down here at the bottom it says Save Image. Okay, I really want to emphasize the index search because this is really the name searching capability, and this is what ArkivDigital is really working on. And the goal of the company is to make Swedish research much easier. And by doing that is really indexing by name many of the church books and also other collections such as the estate inventories, passenger ship manifest, and so on. Now this is a work in progress. And we're going to look at, first of all, you go into index search, and then that's going to open up a menu. And it says search and index, and you're going to see something that says index source. Over here it says the population of Sweden 1840 to 1947. But to the right there is a down arrow, and you click on that, and then that's going to show you all of the databases that are searchable by name. So we will look at the population of Sweden 1840 to 1947. This is really the largest index, and this is really the one that's the most widely used. It's a name searchable index of the household examination congregation books between 1840 and 1947 for all of Sweden. I will repeat, all of Sweden. It's 107 years. And this index was created in partnership with MyHeritage. The index also includes the records from the Stockholm Rotmansarkivet for the years 1878 to 1926. Now, why is this important? In 1878, many of the big parishes within Stockholm stopped creating household records. And instead, there was a Rotmans Institute that was created that was responsible for maintaining the population statistics. And that lasted until 1926. So those records have been integrated into this particular database. So it makes it much easier to search for people within Stockholm. Okay, so to search on this particular database, you go to index search, select the population of Sweden, 1840, 1947, and then you have a simple search and also advanced search. For simple search, you just enter some text in the text box, such as a name, a date, or a place. And here's an example, Carl Svensson, 1852. So it's going to go out and look for all the records that have those variables. And we get over 1,000 matches. That may be a little bit too much to handle, but I happen to know he was from Pelarna. If I add that, I get 2. And it shows him being born in 1852, and these records are from the 1880s. You know, I should have really found more household records. Why not? Well, Carl is often spelled with a K and often with a C, even for the same person. So in the simple search, if I add a check mark to the approximate search, it will then go out there and look for all the Carls with both the C and the K. I now have 13, and most of these records belong to the Carl that I am looking for. All right, let's look at advanced search. This is very powerful, and it's a way to control your searches. It's helped many people actually solve the genealogical mystery that they've had for many years. And it's divided into 4 parts. And you don't have to use them all. It's better to start very broad and then continue narrowing it down. But we can actually start with the name section, first name or last name, and there's wildcards. In your handout on the last page, I've actually included information about the different type of search tools you can use. You can search on gender. In the birth section, you can search by the exact birth date or a range of years, birth parish, the county, or the country if the person was born in a different country. Location, that's the place where the household record was created, or the parish that it was created in. Now, many people lived in many different parishes, so you could find a person, living in multiple parishes throughout their lifetime. But let's say you have heard of a farm or a village. You can enter that and also parish and county. And then household, this is where you can search for other members of the household. And this can be very powerful, especially when you're searching with a common name to help you narrow down the possibilities. So here's an example, looking for Frederick Anderson. And we just know that he was born between 1860 and 1862. His wife was named Anna, and then he had a child by the name of Samuel. We get 6 matches, and by looking at one, here is the person. We have October 25th, 1862, and then down here his wife is Anna, and then the child, one of the given names is Samuel. So this is, again, a very powerful search that you may want to try. Let's do a case study. This is a real case study. It's for Halvor Olsen. And it's for Halvor Olsen. You notice it's spelled with the English or American spelling. Born December 24th, 1855 in Badstad or Värmland, Sweden. His parents were Ole Larsson and Lorena Peterson. And he immigrated to the US in 1882, where he ended up in Blair, Wisconsin. He was said to have 3 sisters that stayed behind. All right, we'll go into index search. The population of Sweden, 1840 to 1947. And the first name, and here I'm doing a wild card, and I'm just putting HAL and then asterisk. And it's going to look for all of the first names that begin with HAL. Now, Halvor can be spelled with a VOR, FOR, or FVOR. So this is why I've chosen to enter the first name in this manner. Since I was given the exact birth date, I'm going to search on that. And then for the county, Värmlands. I get no matches. So let me try again. I'm going to keep the first name the same. I'm going to keep the county the same. But now I'm going to search by other members of the household. For the father, Ola, I'm going to do OL and then wildcard, because it could be Olaf or Ola. Larsson, I'm adding an S. I'm going to do the Swedish spelling, Larsson. And for the mother, who is Persson, it could have been Peter's daughter, Per's daughter, Persson, variations in the spelling. So I'm just going to put P in the wild card. And I get 8 records. However, 4 of them have this Halvor with that 1224, but 1856, a year off. So I decided to actually evaluate this a little bit more. And when I evaluate it, here I get the index record, and it has the parish, Norrfinnskoga and Värmland, but the place is Båstad, very similar to what I was given. And then the father is Olaf Larsson. The mother is Sigrid Persdotter. The first name doesn't match, but the Persdotter that matches a Persson possibly. So, and this was the correct family. So then I continued to research to find out if he actually did immigrate in 1882. So I decided to go back and look for all of the household records for this person from their birth to death or birth to immigration. And again, I did the first name, but now since I had a better birth date, I put in that birth date, 1856, instead of 1855. And then for location, I actually put B and then the A with the ring above it, wild card, Norrfinnskoga for the parish. and I get all of the household records that belong to him from his birth dates, immigration. And his last record, again, has his name, his birth information, also the parish. And then if I click on here, it says that he went to North America and he got the permission to leave on the 31st of May, 1882. So the given versus the actual, really the name was very similar. It was just an Americanization of the spelling, but the birth date was 1 year off. The father, again, was very similar, just an Americanization of the spelling. The mother, Peterson and Peresdatter, could be okay. I'm not sure the original name was Sigrid, why it became a Lorena. And then we have the place name, Bostad, which matched up, and the immigration 1882. So this happens a lot where someone has a lot of information, but there might be 2 or 3 pieces that are different and they don't match up. So this is why it's important to be very flexible in your search. All right, we're also indexing the birth, marriage, and death records. And our goal is to index all of these records from the earliest times, which is in the 1600s, up until at least 1900, with a link to the original record and a partial transcription. And this is being done with partnerships with Swedish genealogical societies and also private individuals within Sweden. So here there's an index search, and this is one for the birth index parts of Sweden. And down at the bottom, you will actually see a little box telling you what has been indexed. And also in your handout, I actually have a link to where you can find out what has been indexed to date as far as the birth index. The same is true for the marriage and also the death records. And today, as far as the birth records, we've actually indexed all the birth, marriage, and death records from the earliest time, 1600s, up until 1900, for the entire county of Kronenberg, most of Värmland, and about 80 parishes in Södermanland. We've also indexed all the birth records between 1800 and 1840 for all counties except for Malmöhus, and that should be coming up within 2 to 3 weeks. So let's do a search for a birth record, and let's look for that Halvard. I put in the first name, I did actual wildcard again, and the exact birth date. And here I get one record match, and this is the index, Halvard, date of birth, birth location, the birth parish, father's name, and the mother's name. Now on the original record, there is a little bit more information. And the original record does show a baptism date of the December 26th, and many of the index records do show that. Also, the original record shows the witnesses to the baptism, which were not on the index record. Also, the original record shows that the mother was 39 years old, and many times that is also showed on the index record, but not in this case. Okay, for death indexes, you can do a simple search and also an advanced search. Again, first name and last name or partial names, death date or a range of years, even a farm or village, parish or county, search on a burial date, and then also relatives, because sometimes the spouse's name is in a death record or also maybe the parent of a child who died. Here's an example where I did a simple search for just an Erik Monsen in 1785. And it was pretty well translated. It had Erik Monsen, Fatig, it means poor. It has his date of death, date of burial, death location, 34 years old. And then it shows that he died of dysentery. Also has some additional information about Maria Peresdatter, who was his wife. And then over here was the actual record. The only thing additional in the original record that's not in the index is it does show that his mother's name was Kajsa Andersdatter, and it does say that he has 2 children. Okay, let's look at immigrants. And these are the passenger ship manifests that have been indexed by name. Now, we've had passenger ship manifest on ArkivDigital for many years. But in the past, what you had to do is go into archive search, go under the archive type police archives, and then that would bring up the archives for Gothenburg, Helsingborg, Malmö, and Stockholm. And that's where you would find the passenger ship manifests for people leaving from those ports. And then, for instance, if you were looking for somebody from Gothenburg, you would open that. That was arranged in date order or year order. You would open it, and then you would have to browse through the book and then find the manifest. But now you can search by name. And here's a household record for Johann Fredrik Halen. It's from the parish of Soderala. That's where he left from. He was originally born in Hoogmantorp, and he moved to North America in 1869. And the date that he left the parish or got the certificate to leave was May 6th. So if we go into index search and look for immigrants, we can search by a first name or a last name or partial. Also by exact birth date or range of years. I would recommend never searching on exact birth date because most of the passenger ship manifest only have an age. So it would be a range of years would be better. Departure date, that would not be the same date that's on the household record, but we have a departure year of 1869, and that would be what you should probably be put in, unless you do know the exact departure date, the name of the vessel, and also the port. So here I've entered over here, J with a wild card, and then Halen, and then down here, immigration from year and to year 1869. On the first names, I have often found them to be abbreviated. So again, you might be just, flexible in your search on these immigrants. Always, here's the index record, and it is abbreviated JOHFR, Halen. Calculated birth year of 1846 because he gave his age as 23. The actual date that he left from Gothenburg was May 21st, 1869. And he left from the port of Gothenburg on the ship Plato. As always, you need to look at the original record to see if there's additional information. In this case, it says he was a tailor, and it gives his birthplace as Stockholm, which is not correct. But often, what is noted there a lot of times is maybe the last place where they lived, or in some cases, maybe the largest city nearby. In this case, he did live in Stockholm, but that's not the place where he was born, or it was not the place where he actually left from. But the place he left from was not that far from Stockholm. And it's saying that he's going to New York. And a lot of times that may not be the final destination. In this case, he actually ended up in Brooklyn, New York. Okay, another set of records that we're looking at that we are in the process of indexing by name are the estate inventories. Now within ArkivDigital, we have estate inventories from the earliest times. Primarily they begin in the early 1700s, but some actually in the late 1600s, up until 1960 for all of Sweden. And in your handout, I've actually listed a link where you can go to find out, the most current update for the estate inventories. We just actually put an update in a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to do a search here for the father of Johann Halen. The father's name was Carl Magnus Halen. He died June 4th, 1900 in Hoogmantorp Parish in Kronenberg. And I can go into index search, look for estate inventories, and there's a simple and advanced search. I can search by first or last name, from or to year. That's the year that the estate inventory was created. And it's important to remember that not all estate inventories were created the same year the person died. So you may want to start your search the from year the person died, and maybe put it out a couple of years. The county and the parish, and then also the archive founder, or that's the name of the district court or the city court. So in this case, I just put the last name Halen. I put 1900 to 1900, and I got two matches. The second one is the one I want, the one in Hoffmantorp. And then here I get an index record. The index record doesn't have a lot of information, just primarily the name of the court. In this case, it was the Kunga District Court. The place where the estate inventory was actually carried out, which was his home, Leeken in Lindesgrove, the parish, the county, and the year. It also has extra information. In this case, it's saying that he's married to Brita Stina Fredriksdottir. And then there is a link to the original record. And here, the first part of it is actually an ingress or preamble that gives information about the deceased and also names the heirs. So this is saying on September 6, 1900, an estate inventory was performed at Leeken under Lindesgrove for Carl Magnus Halen, who died on June 4th. And then it says his heirs are his widow, Brita Stina Fredriksdottir, and 7 children. And you'll notice that the first child, Johann Fredrik, is living in America. And several others are also living in America. Down at the bottom, you'll see 2 daughters, Maria and Stina Lisa. And they're both in America, but it also gives their husbands' names. So you will often find in estate inventories for the daughters, if they are married, their husbands' names will also be included in the estate inventory. Then after that, it's just followed by the inventory of all the assets and debts. And he had some furniture, some bedding, he had a cow, some miscellaneous items. And the net value was 1,693.56 Swedish kroner. Okay, now, again, this is a work in progress. Now, so the first thing, if you're looking for an estate inventory, I recommend using that global search that we just did. But if you don't find it, the next step is to look at maybe paper registers. And these are called estate inventory registers. So here is one we're looking for an Elna Larsdottir, who died February 9th, 1838 in Sloenga Parish in Holland. And what you do is you go to the Sloenga Parish Archive, and then you go down here and look for estate inventories. You click on that, and then filter it. Look for estate inventory registers. Now, not all of them do have estate inventory registers, but you want to look for that because that will be the paper index. In this case, there is one, and it's from 1684 to 1848. Now, there are estate inventories after 1848 that have not been indexed yet, and they're not included on this paper name register. But we're looking for someone that would be in there. And these are in alphabetical order. And here we find Elna Larsdottir. Says that she's married to Anders Persson, has a place where she's living in the parish. And then it says we can find it in the volume for the year 1838, which is volume number 32, page 185. We go back to the archive for the district court. We go to volume 32. We open that volume and then go directly to page 185. So for the estate inventories, first start with the global search. Then if you're not successful, look for a printed register. And then otherwise, you're going to have to browse through the books page by page, starting with the year of death. Okay, we actually have some quick find tools. And one is for the SCB extracts for the birth, marriage, and deaths. The SCB is a short abbreviation for the Bureau of Central Statistics that was created in the 1850s in Sweden, and it still exists today. And one of the tasks that the ministers were given in 1860 was to send a yearly extract of all birth, marriage, and deaths in the parishes to the central government agency. So after 1860, there were really 2 sets of birth, marriage, and death records. There was the original one in the church books, and then also this SCB extract. So when would you want to look for these SCB extracts? Well, let's say that we're looking for a birth record for 1940 for this parish Allerum in Malmöhus. Now, within Sweden, there is a privacy law that prevents some records, such as the birth, the death, and the household records, from being published online if they're younger than 70 years. So the cutoff year is now 1950. But so 1940 is no longer protected by the privacy law. I go here, and I only see records from 1690 down to 1934 for births. So why don't I see the 1940? I select Archive Information, and then I do a link to the National Archive database, which actually tells me what physical books exist in the regional archives. And it says the next book is 1935 to 1973. So some of the records are protected by the privacy law, and that is why it is not on ArkivDigital. So then I can actually go to index search, click on quick find SCB extracts, and then here I get a menu, and I can leave page type empty, and that would look for both birth, marriage, and death, or rather all three. And it is in Swedish, so if I put in F for, which is födda, that's going to bring up födda. V is for marriage, and D is for death. And then I put the year 1940 to 1940, and then also the parish. I get one match. I click on that, and that's the first page for the 1940 birth records for this particular parish, Allerum. Now, we've had these SCB records on ArkivDigital for quite a while, but they were at the county level, and they were quite cumbersome to actually search. So this is really making life much easier in cases where you would want to look at these SCB records. Okay, the tax records. Now the tax records, they start in the early 1600s, and you may want to use them in cases where maybe the household records don't go that far back in time, or in cases where maybe the church records have been destroyed. They don't always contain as much information as the household records, but they can be helpful in certain cases. So we can actually do a search. Now, within ArkivDigital, we have the tax registers. There were 3 copies. There was one at the district level, then a copy was sent to the county, and then also to the national level. We have all the preserved copies at the district level, and then most of them at the county level. And then in cases where there are holes, we actually have them at the national level. So let's do a case where we research backwards from the household, because the household records only go back so far in time. So in Allerum, they start in 1813. If I go to the quick find for the Montal's tax records, I can search by a range of years, parish, and county. So if I put in Allerum, I get 146 records, and they begin in 1658, and they go down to 1837 as to what we have on ArkivDigital. If I wanted to look at the one for 1813, I can click on that, open the image, and that will open it up, and then it's actually organized by place name. I could even compare it to the household record to see, what matches and what doesn't. I'm going to do a little bit more detailed example here. This is a case where the church books have been destroyed. And the parish is with Kavila, and this is in the county of Göteborg och Bohus. And you look here, it says the first household record is 1860 to 1900. Well, that's not really a household record. It contains the extracts of the yearly census records that were sent to the minister, that were sent to the central government agency by the minister in 1860, 1870, 1880, 1890, and 1900. The first real church book is the congregation records for 1895 to 1904. So by looking at Kabila, there is information in the archive info. It says large parts of the archive were destroyed by fire in 1904. So I'm looking at the household record, and this is 1895 to 1904 for the family of Johan Aron Andersson. And I would like to trace them backwards. So I go to Quick Find, Montal's Tax Records, put in Kavila for the parish, and I get 212 record matches. The first year is 1669, and then it goes down to 1896. Now, most of the time we just have the tax registers up to 1820, but in cases where maybe the church records have been destroyed, we actually go further. So here is the one for 1896. Now for this Johan, it has Johan Aaron Anderson, has 41, that's his birth year. For his wife, it just says H, Hustru, and her birth year of 53. It does not have her name. There's a B, which means barn or children, and then all the children, it has their birth years. So this is 1896, and the last one was born in 1895, Thura. If I go back to the previous one for 1895, it has all members of the family except for Thura, who was actually born after the tax register was created for that year. So you can just sort of trace the family back in these tax registers like you do in the household records. Okay, general muster rolls. Now again, this is not a class on how to research the military records, but for those of you who may know how to do this, this is a quick way of finding the muster rolls. Go into index search and look for quick find general muster rolls. You can search by year and the regiment and the company. So here's a case, it's a soldier number 44. He's at the Hallereid Soldier Torp. This is in Stockereid Parish in Jönköping. His name is Anders Johan Nilsson Elm, and I found out that he belonged to the Kalmar Regiment and the Västra Harald Company. So I wanted to find his general muster rolls. So I go into index search, quick find for the general muster rolls. You can search by a range of years, the regiment and the company. In this case, I put Kalmar and Västra Harald, and I get 72 records. The ones I want are from 1863 to 1872. I open it, and then I search for 42, and you just sort of browse. The soldier numbers are in numerical order. And so here it says, it gives his name, actually gives his patronymic, Anders Johan Nilsson, his birth date, and that they entered the service on the 28th of March, 1861. I can continue following him forward until he was discharged in the 13th of April, 1872. And then he moved to North America after that. Okay, we have actually scanned all of the books, the Svenska Goods och Gårdar, or the Swedish Farms and Estates. There were 51 books that were published in the 1930s and 1940s, really describing farms and estates throughout Sweden with a picture, giving information about the size, just information about what type of animals were on the farm, who the owner was, and sometimes some genealogical information about the family residing on the farm. So here is how you find these. You go into archive search and you look for archive type printed literature. And then you can just put in goods, G-O-D-S. In this case, it's bringing up Svenska Goods och Gårdar, and then also another one, an older edition. We'll click on the first one, and it's got 52 volumes. And 50 of these volumes are 50 of the 51, and then there's 2 additional indexes. So they actually describe the area of Värmland, North Värmland, Southwest, Southeast. So here's an example of a household record. This is going back to that Båstad in North Skoga that we looked earlier. And this is in 1891 to 1895. Down here is a Britta Håkansson, who actually marries Knut Erik Henriksson, and they have a child, Berta Elvira, who was born in 1895. And I wanted to know if I could see, that farm in these books. So I went to search for Svenska Goods och Gårdar, and I went to the Värmland and Norra book. I clicked on that. And in the back of the book, usually a few pages prior to the end of the book, you will find a listing of all the parishes that are included in the book. So this one I found, Nora Venskoga, says that the records begin on page 305. I went to page 305, and usually you'll see a picture of the church, and then also a page or two description about the parish. Then after that, the farms are listed in alphabetical order. And here's the boat stud. And it gives a size. It was about 1,000 hectares, and most of it was forest. So the main building was built around 1860. And there's a horse, 4 to 5 cows. It says that the farm has been in the family since the 1700s. And then the owner is Fru Avara Larsson, born in 1895. Says that she was a daughter to Knut Henriksson and Brita Håkansdottir, as we saw, and that she has a child, Eric, who was born in 1926. So these are wonderful books to look at. We have more volumes, and I've just pointed out some more. If you go into printed literature, there's Bigden Folk, and I've actually listed these in your handout so that you can find the names of the different volumes that actually include more pictures and more descriptions of farms during the 20th century. But, you know, it may be your family farm may be included in one of these books. Okay, an update on the Swedish American Church books. The largest number are really in Iowa, Kansas, Minnesota, and also Nebraska. We have a few in Wisconsin and also in Missouri, a couple in Illinois, and then one in Oklahoma and one South Dakota. And the way you find these records is you go into archive search, actually search for the country United States, and then you can actually also limit it by state. So this case, Nebraska. Here it says we have 120 congregations. And if I select Omaha Emmanuel Evangelical Lutheran Church in Nebraska, here it says, okay, congregation records. And there's also birth records, marriage records, death records, records showing people who joined the church, people who left the church. Also, you'll find a lot of anniversary celebration bulletins, like 100-year celebration, 75, 50 years, records about the school, the church choir, just wonderful sets of records. This one has 91 volumes, so it's always good to sort of see what types of records there are. The congregation records are very similar to the household records within Sweden, especially for the Lutheran Church. And usually there is an index in the front, like in this case, Johan's Kronholm says on page 117, we can find out more information. And there we can get his birth date, the place where he came from in Sweden, and also the information about his family. You also get information as to when he immigrated from Sweden or if he came from another place within the US. So again, these are wonderful records. Many people have actually identified where their ancestor came from in Sweden by looking at the Swedish American Church books. Last, I'd like to show a series of books. These are from the Lutheran Synod, the Banner of Cross. They were published between 1880 and 1950 every year. And many of them actually include obituaries or detailed biographical descriptions of ministers, the wives of ministers, also prominent members of a particular church. And how you find these is you go into archive search, printed literature in the country of the United States. Then you select Tryckta skrifter, and it will come up, and it has, of course, Banneret from 1880 all the way up to 1950. And there's one volume that says Tryckta skrifter, and it's actually in the 1929 volume, but it's indexing all of the obituaries or these biographical sketches from 1880 to 1929. And then after that, to 1930 to 1950, if you look at the table of contents, usually that will give the names of the people who have actually been written about. So here you go see at the top it has year and also the page. Now these are in Swedish. So let's look at, say that we're looking for an Aaron L. Blom. and we would go to the book for 1907, page 235. I go to the book for 1907, I open it, and usually on the front page, there's a picture, and then it's followed by several pages of a biographical sketch. In this case, I just summarized it, said he was born in Tiserum Parish in Östergötland. His birth date was the 23rd of March, 1825, immigrated in 1868 and settled in Swedesburg, Iowa. He moved to Bethania, Nebraska in 1893, and then he died in 1906 in Axtell, Nebraska. So lastly, what I'd like to do is explain that ArkivDigital is coming out with a new book in English. And this is a layout of the book at the printer. It's going to be called Explore Your Swedish Heritage. It's written by Håkan Sjökso, who is a Swedish genealogist. It came out in Swedish a year ago, and now it has been translated to English. It's over 190 pages in color, giving you information of how to work with ArkivDigital, giving lots of information about the different types of records and also some genealogy. So it's a great complement to your Swedish roots and cradled in Sweden. It's not a replica of either one of those books. So hopefully this will be ready for selling by sometime in November. So just watch our blog or follow our newsletter and you can find out more information as to where you can purchase the book.